Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles. Thank you for joining us from around the world, wherever you are. Make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss any Mile High tick. You always want to be dialed in. So whether it be on Facebook, YouTube, Stitcher, iTunes, hit subscribe so you always get the Mile High 4011. And make sure you dial in being at Mile High 11 in September 23rd weekend of 2023. Easy to remember. 2023, September 23rd weekend. You want to be at 5,280 feet at Mile High 11. And so today we are super thrilled. I personally am super thrilled. I almost didn't want to start the podcast. I just wanted to speak to our guest before we started recording, to be here with the one and only Dr. Laurie Meinholz, who's one of my favorite people. She's just an incredible soul and has an incredible heart for chiropractic. She's a chiropractor in Decorah, Iowa, 2013 graduate of Palmer, and also tremendously helpful to the IFCO, the International Federation of Chiropractors and Organizations, for all the work she does there. We'll talk about things going on in the IFCO as well. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Laurie.
Hey, thanks, Danny. It's great to be here.
We're glad to have you on. You do so much to help. You've helped. I want to say this first of all. You've been such a help behind the scenes for Mile High for years that I almost feel bad we haven't had you on as a podcast guest until now. So thank you for being a helper and being such a fan of Mile High. And thank you for all you're doing for IFCO and chiropractic. Let's start with helping people get to know you personally better. How 2013 you graduated from Palmer. How did you end up going to Palmer? How did you find your way to chiropractic?
I'll try to keep the story short, right? Because it always can go on for forever and ever. But it's kind of a cool story. So when I was doing my undergraduate degree, my mom actually said to me, Laurie, you would be a great chiropractor. You should go be a chiropractor at Palmer. Everything you talk about is chiropractic. You just don't know it yet. And I was like, well, that's really funny. Let's go on a visit. So it was like, I think it was my junior year in undergrad. We go on a visit to Palmer and I go through the whole day and I'm like, Mom, you're right. This is everything I talk about, but I'm so tired of school. I'm not going. I can't handle being a chiropractor. I can't handle more school. It's too much money. I'm not doing it. And she's like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but I can't force you to go to school to be a chiropractor. So like, whatever, girl, right? So I finish off my undergrad. After school, had no idea what I was going to do with my life. Ended up by chance working at a chiropractic office. I moved back in with my parents. My dad had hurt his knee. We're a big chiropractic family. We avoid the medical doctor at all costs unless we're dying. So he was going to the chiropractor to get his knee fixed up, and started taking him to all his appointments, and she was always behind because she was short on staff. And being a person who likes organization and systems, I couldn't stand to look at it at the visits 3 times a week for 3 weeks. And I finally said to her, why are you always behind? And she said, because I'm short on staff. I'm like, yeah, aren't you hiring? And she's like, I am. Are you going to work here? And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And so I started working at her office.
I love it.
Yeah, I just jumped in. And within like 2 or 3 days, I was like, I have to be a chiropractor. Just seeing people's eyes light up after their visits, the change in people, there was no turning back. And so I had to eat a piece of humble pie, go back to my mom and say, okay, I'll go be a chiropractor. So then I went on another visit of Palmer. And by the end of the day, I was like, yep, I'm signing up. Send me here. Yeah. And that was it. I was all in ever since then. And actually 1 year to the date when I started working at the chiropractic office is when I started my classes at Palmer. So that was kind of a cool coincidence.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I got to tell you, that's another thing you and I have in common, besides the love of chiropractic and the love of Mile High and the love of the IFCO and all of those things. Another thing we have in common is we both had to told our parents over and over again we would not be chiropractors, and then had to go back and say, oh, we're going to do this. So that was very much so me. So I relate to it.
It just shows parents know best, I guess.
Yes, at times they do, and we don't want to admit it, you know?
Yep.
So, and I'm hoping my kids end up realizing at some point that I know best, but we'll see.
Eventually they all get there. It's just how long, right?
Just how long? Exactly. So now you find your way, you're going to chiropractic school, you find your way to Palmer, and tell me about your experience starting out chiropractic school.
Okay. I'm glad you asked because it's crazy. So I show up day one of chiropractic school. We had philosophy 1 with Dr. Strang and Hall of Philosophers.
Right.
The Palmer grads will remember this perhaps. We're sitting in this big lecture hall, and on each side on the walls, there's these giant portraits of all the great chiropractors through time. So he's giving us this timeline of chiropractic history. Like, this is D.D. Palmer, this is B.J. Palmer, Mabel, what each of them kind of did. Mm-hmm. And he gets to Dr. Gonstead. And he starts talking about Dr. Gonstead. And I'm like, wait a minute, I know this name. And I realized from the memory banks that my grandparents on each side of my family were actually Dr. Gonstead patients.
Wow.
And they would tell me the stories of Dr. Gonstead, right? And so I was like, oh my God, I got to go visit my grandma. She's my only living grandparent at the time.
Oh, this is so exciting.
Yeah. She's in the nursing home with Alzheimer's. She's 96 years old. Okay. So we start school on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. That Saturday, I go back home to Madison, Wisconsin.
Right.
And I visit my grandma. And I go in and my grandma's like, Laurie, what's going on? What are you up to? And I was like, Grandma, you wouldn't believe it. I'm in school to be a chiropractor. And Danny, it was amazing. Her face dropped and she just like, she goes, we're going to have a chiropractor in our family. And she started to cry.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, isn't that amazing? And she like grabbed onto my hands and pulled me into her. And she looked at me, Danny, and she goes, you go do what Dr. Gonstead did. And I was like, okay.
I love it.
Sure, Grandma. And then the funny thing, well, funny but not funny, right, about it is she had Alzheimer's at the time. So that's as far as in the conversation we ever got. And we repeated that same conversation probably 12 or 15 times. Wow. And I thought, okay, I was hoping to hear stories about Dr. Gonstead. All I got was go learn what he did. And so that's what I did. I went to school and I started learning Gonstead. And now I'm a full-on gondroid.
I gotta ask this. I gotta ask this at this point. Super important. Does Dan Lyons know this?
I don't know. Probably not. I don't know that I've ever. I don't share that often.
Wow.
I'm not sure.
Wow.
I should tell him sometime though.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. So you wanna take it one step cooler?
Yes, go ahead. I'm all in.
So I go through chiropractic school. I learn Gonstead. I'm head of the Gonstead club. I'm all in. It just clicked in my brain. Right. I graduate. I practice. A couple years into practice, I'm at Christmas dinner with my dad's side of the family.
Right.
And my uncle Vinny's like the historian of the family.
Okay.
And he's like, hey, how's practice? And I'm like, it's really good. And he's like, what do you do? And I was like, chiropractic. He's like, yeah, but like, what do you do? And I was like, well, I follow what Gonstead did. And he's like, okay, why'd you do that? And I was like, Grandma told me to. And he's like, really, Grandma told you to. Do you know why she loved Dr. Gonstead?
Oh,
Like,
this is interesting.
right? I'm like, I don't know. Like, that's the only time I talked to her about chiropractic, when she said, go do what Gonstead did, right? So
Uh-huh.
what he tells me is that my grandma had 2 kids, Chris and Will.
Uh-huh.
Then she had no kids for 6 years because she miscarried. In those 6 years, she started going to Dr. Gonstead for adjustments. And then she had 5 kids in 6 years. And one of those 5 kids at the end of the 6 years is my dad.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm like, oh, Dr. Gonstead, my whole life. It's like, it's just
Wow.
wild.
I
And I'm
love
like,
this.
how come I didn't put that together on my own when I was in school? I don't know. I didn't think
Uh-huh.
about it.
Uh-huh. Wow. Wow. That's so amazing. Well, Dan Lyons is going to know after listening to this podcast. We're going to make sure he hits listen. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
So then, um, fast forward, chiropractic school, you're studying Gonstead. You have probably even more of a fire now to be an outstanding chiropractor than you did before, because there's a purposeness that connects your heart and soul. So now how you're highly involved, we're going to fast forward a bunch, you're highly involved with the IFCO. The International Federation of Chiropractors and Organizations. What spoke to you to become part of supporting? Well, first to be a member of the IFCO.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually have a very clear memory of that in my head. I was out at the Berkshire event that Scott Garber put on in
Yep.
Massachusetts.
Yep.
And at that, Liam Schubel talked. And one of the
Who?
things
Who?
you probably never heard of Liam Schubel, right? He's not a big deal.
Okay. I'll have to look him up.
Have to look him up. Anyway, this nobody guy got up and said a few things. And one of the things I remember he said was, if you care about chiropractic and you want it to be around for the next 3 generations and you want the ability to practice it, you need to join the IFCO, because that's what we're fighting for. That's what we're working towards, because we are under attack. And I knew that, but the way he presented it and hearing it, it's like it hit me over the head. And I was like,
Right.
great, just sign me up. Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Right.
how much money do you need, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So
I'll tell you, that's part of even my process of becoming chiropractor. Is like, this thing that I thought was beautiful was under attack. I have to be part of this, you know.
mhm,
So I get it.
absolutely. Yep. Yep. And then from there, it just grew. I kept, like, as a member of the IFCO, asking, like, what do you guys need help with? Can I do something? Is there anything else? What can I do? And all of a sudden it was like, hey, you've been nominated to be on the board and go through the election. Do you want to do that? I'm like, yeah, I mean, that sounds wonderful. So one thing leads to another, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Well, that's so super cool. So now tell everybody a few important things of why about the IFCO, why the IFCO is important.
Yeah. So, the IFCO is the only international organization that is out there working to protect our rights as chiropractors, to detect, analyze, correct subluxation, but also things like we forget, like the ability to take an x-ray in our office, right? The ability to use the term subluxation, constantly working with the schools and our education to get better subluxation based schooling and to turn the schools around, right? We have a lot of different things we're working on. So, I think of it this way: you can give your time, your talents, or both, right? So it's good to sign up and get your give us some money so we can keep funding these projects and these initiatives and get things going in legal battles. But also, if you don't have the money or you want to do more, like me, I'm a member and I'm also serving on the board, right? So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
So now going back to your experience and you and your personal story that's so moving about Wisconsin in the middle of the country, in the middle of the US, has such a rich chiropractic history. And that's part of why we decided to start Mile High, because I noticed that most of the philosophically focused things were on either coast. And I found my process of going to chiropractic by attending things in the Northeast, back in the day, and Southeast at Sherman, and then there's things on the West, because I was like, well, the middle of the country is where Gonstead was, where the Palmers were. Stevenson at one point lived in Boulder, Colorado, and then also the Spears clinic was in Colorado. I was like, well, what happened to the middle of the country as being a hub of chiropractic enthusiasts? Some toughness was in Wisconsin, so there was all this history in this area, but I was like, this has not been it's not been watered. The grass hasn't been fed water in the area. So so there you are, you're opening your practice in Iowa. Tell us a little bit about getting started.
Yeah, that was quite the roller coaster, to be honest.
It is. Don't have to sugarcoat it. It can be.
Yeah, and like I'll be honest with you. I have this toxic trait where I think I can do anything, right? I go into things 100%, have zero reservations. I'm just like, yeah, I can do that. Of course I can. Why couldn't I, right?
I'm not the only one who does that?
Yeah. No, I think we're a lot more alike than we realize, Danny, right?
I love it.
So I decided what happened with me is where I did my precepting at. In my head, I had sort of thought, oh, I'll work for him for a year, get my feet wet, have a Gonstead mentor right by my side to go through all the cases and figure it out. And honestly, he's a great doc. I wasn't happy in the town I was in. And I can't work for other people. I just can't, even precepting. I just can't. If you're like, you need to be in the office from 8 till noon, I'll just buck the system as a rebel just because I can't, not for any good reason, just because I want to, right? I'm like, I can't work here. It's not going to work out. I got to work for myself. So very last minute, 4 weeks before graduation, I was like, I'm going to go. I'm going to open. That's it. So I decided to go to Decorah, Iowa, which is where I did my undergrad at. And that was an easy choice for me because honestly, that is one of the only places I've ever been in my life where it feels like home. And so I decided to go there. And, everything went really smooth from like the bank loan, the build out, getting, my adjusting I already had. So I had those. I got X-ray installed, which was great. And then came time to actually open the doors. And what I realized I was not doing was like meeting people in the community. So somebody would know me. Like no one in this town knew who I was. And so then it was like, yeah, I was open, but nobody knew me. So then came the actual hard work of getting out in the community, meeting people, getting involved as possible. So I didn't have any patients at the time. So I just signed up for everything. So I signed up to be a mentor. We have like a big brother, big sister program. I did that. I signed up to be on our town festival board, which our town's like 8,000 people. The festival brings about 12,000 people to town. I signed up for that. Any other volunteer positions I could get, I signed up with the chamber. I basically spent all my days out in the community meeting people, just so people would know who I was, right? And that finally got the ball rolling, but like it was slow, it was hard. I struggled my first year. I'll be completely honest about that.
Very few people do not struggle their first year. There are people that tell stories of not, but it's a lot of energy to start any business.
One thing I did the first year when I'd get tired of being in the community is I'd come in my office and I would envision a new patient coming in. I'd be like, oh yeah, here's Danny, my new patient. And here's what he's sick with. And he's going to come in and I'm going to shake his hand and he's going to sign the paperwork. And, cause I didn't have any staff and, and I'd go through the whole visit for the first day with them. I'd fake the history with them. I'd fake run my nervoscope on the person. I'd fake take x-ray, fake develop them, everything. And what I noticed would happen, whatever person I imagined, like here's Danny, he's kind of a weirdo, but he's a good guy and he's got, XYZ going on. All of a sudden that person would
actually me kind of a weirdo, but it's got, kind of a good guy. I love it. Sounds like my kind of person.
Exactly. My favorite patients. But pretty soon that same patient that presented that way, that was very similar to the person I envisioned, was walking in my office. And so I quickly realized the power of my mind to bring people in as well. Right. And start envisioning days with 5 new patients, 6 new patients, 7 new patients, whatever I could handle. Right. And I think that also played a big part, right? In filling things and getting levels up, right? Yep. So it all contributes. But yeah, started my office. It's a straight Gonstead office, I like to say. So it's all I do. It's all I know how to do. That's my biggest strength and probably my biggest weakness, all in one ball of wax, right? But yeah, do that and have been going strong for 9 years once I got through that, first year or so.
Right. Well, now let me ask you relative to all of this, because that ties into that the first year, you've got to put a lot of energy and you probably felt like you needed help at different points, which will really lend to us talking about students and the IFCO and how that will, being a student member of the IFCO can be very helpful to them getting started. Before we say that, because I think that's super important. By the way, how much does it cost to be a member, a student member of the IFCO?
Yeah, it is perhaps the best deal in all of chiropractic.
The best deal.
The best deal.
It may be.
I think it actually is,
Okay.
Student member of the IFCO is $50 for your entire student career.
Wow.
So like, if you're smart, you want to get your full money off, like you start chiropractic school day 1, sign up for $50. You're a student member the whole, 3.5 years or tries or quarters, wherever you're at. It's good for the whole time. You get all of our member benefits, all of our perks. I mean, I would kill to pay that price now.
Well, let's talk about what the IFCO does for students. What's the URL where people can become members of the IFCO?
Yeah, so it's ifcochiro.org.
Okay, there you go.
And they can sign up there.
So before we go into some of the things that are student programs that people can get part of the student group and be groups at different schools, definitely encourage doctors and students to support if you feel subluxation analysis adjustment is central to chiropractic. You will want, regardless of where you are in the world, to be a member supporter of the IFCO. And before we talk more about what there's there for students, how you have helped tremendously with Mile High over the years. What attracted you first to be at Mile High whenever it was that you first went? Because you went 3 or 4 times so far, I think.
Yep.
Roughly.
Yeah, I did. Mile High was one of those events where I was told to go. And I don't remember who told me, but they said something like, Laurie, you're stupid not to be there. Like, what better thing could you do? I was like, dude, I don't know. Like, give me a break, right?
That might have been Liam. Liam might have said that.
Liam could have said that. He can be like that. just like, go, you're stupid not to be there. Something like you're losing money if you're not there, which sounds like another Liam quote,
Yes, it
possibly.
does.
But the perhaps Liam, the other person that also like just told me to go to seminars and you're stupid to go if you're not there, right? Was Andy Roberts. So it was probably one of them who just said, you have to go or you're just being ridiculous. So I just decided to sign up like on a whim and was like, I don't know this Danny Knowles guy. I don't know anything about him, but we'll see. We'll see who they are. So
he sounds like one of your practice patients.
It does. Yep. Yep.
Exactly. Okay. So then you find your way to Mile High.
Yeah. I found my way to Mile High. And you know what I realized is that I loved what all the speakers said. I loved how on point they were. And what I love about the speakers you have is I know what they're saying, they're doing in practice. Some places you go and
I love that. Can you say that again? Yeah, because that's actually super important because I've had times when that's not the case.
I think Mile High is very authentic, and what the speakers are saying, they're doing in practice, right? There's no BS behind it. You don't hear a speaker and go, yeah, but like you're saying you're in the office 7 days a week, and I'm looking at your Facebook and you've actually been out of the office for the last 4 months. Like you've been in your office. Like, I'm not stupid, So yeah, that's the thing I noticed and could pick up on. And also the fact that the presenters are approachable. I have no qualm at Mile High of walking up, to whoever's talking and say, hey, I really liked what you had to say. I want to learn more. Or, hey, I really liked, could you explain that more? Could you help me with this? Or did I understand this correctly? And they're always more than happy. And usually you'll get a whole nother lecture out of them,
That's true. That's true.
You do. Yes. And then you're in the hallway with them for 30 minutes and somebody's walking around with a cowbell trying to get you all inside. And I'm like, but I'm in the middle of my second lecture, you guys. I can't go back in yet.
I just got to ask, was that Jack Borla? Because he's famous for hallway talks.
Yeah, he's done that to me multiple times where I can't get back to class because I'm in the hallway. Yeah. I think Hanson too.
Yes, that's true also. Yeah. I think you're correct. So and again, you've gone, why do you keep going back to Mile High?
Now at first I went back for those reasons because I liked the hallway talk and I liked that the presenters were authentic and I know they were doing stuff that they were talking. Now I feel like it's the community, it's the family. I know people when I go there. I want to go back. I want to see, Jack Borla again. I want to see Jake Hansen again. I want to see the tribe of the Mile High people and see what they've been up to for the past year. And like we said before we started, like, why don't we do more, right? I miss my people.
I got to say this, and then let's talk about students in IFCO. Like you, I just said, well, of course I could do this and had no idea that I could or couldn't. And luckily I didn't have enough, I just figured I could make it happen. And I put so much intention and energy to the production level to be outstanding because that was important to me. And also the level of speakers, that the speakers were top notch and the best I could find, and also alignment with the values that I think are central to chiropractic and our principles. And then something happened that I didn't expect was when people talked about how great Mile High was, they didn't talk about the speakers and how great they were. I mean, they said, yeah, they were stellar, but they concurred that the program was a top-notch content. But what they really loved was what you just said, the community. Over and over again, people tell me that every year, which was a big eye-opening for me.
Yeah. Well, when we're out here practicing, we're all these little islands, right? And so any community connection we can get is great. But I also think what attributes to that community is the speakers, because they're in control of the energy, the atmosphere, and oftentimes I think your speakers are perhaps more vulnerable than other events. So that makes extra safety net, right? If I'm letting out my like deepest practice failure in front of a crowd of hundreds of people, other people are going to be more vulnerable with each other to go, oh yeah, person next to me, guess what happened to me too, right? So I think it creates more community, more sharing as well, the way your speakers handle things.
I love that. I love that. So again, you know, it's very simple. riseuptomilehigh.com. Just clear your calendar. The place to be in September 2023 is on higher ground at Mile High. Everybody knows that. That's just clear your calendar and be there. Now, with that, now students are central to Mile High. I feel chiropractic as a whole doesn't depend on me. It doesn't depend on you, Laurie. It depends on the people that are going into school now and they're in school now, because they're the future, and we have to, as doctors of chiropractic, have to help uplift them. We have to help them have discernment of what chiropractic principles and values and philosophy, science, and art are, and we also have to help them win, help them be successful. Because if they can't be successful focusing on the art with their hands, of adjusting analysis and the technologies relative to analysis, then we're really in trouble. If they can't thrive. So what are some things of how the IFCOs, because I know you lead the Green Book study group, and you also lead the student area. So tell us about that, about the students. First of all, what there is for students to help them thrive when they get out and start thriving in school.
Yeah. So first off, this year we started a new program for our students who are members, our scholarship program. And if you remember, Danny, we actually sent 4 students to Mile High.
Right.
We paid for airfare and their hotel to get them there, to get them surrounded by docs, to get them connecting, networking, and learning.
Just say that again. The IFCO did what? Let's let everybody hear that. That's super important.
Yeah. The IFCO sent 4 students on scholarship to Mile High. 4, we paid their travel and we paid their hotel and made sure they had a ticket. All they had to do was pay for their food. But you know what? I think most of the students at Mile High met docs, and the docs picked up their food anyway. Also this year, we also sent students to New Beginnings. So we are trying to get students to all kinds of different chiropractic seminars and get them out there and get them learning, get them networking, get them in the hallway conversations with Jack Borla, right?
Well, we got to be careful about that.
Yeah, I mean, only certain ones can handle it, right? But that was one of our big initiatives this year we did with the students. And I think we are, as far as I know, going to plan on redoing that again next year and every year after that. And hopefully the money we have to put into that program will continue to grow. The other thing we just started was our mentorship program. I think there's 2 ways you learn, either from your mistakes or your mentor's mistakes. So why not learn more from mentors' mistakes and less from your own? So what we did is we mentor program with our IFCO doctors paired with our IFCO students. We paired them up either based on technique, on if they love research, on their geographic area, whatever it was. And then those docs and students are connecting every single month, sometimes 2-3 times a month, depending on the pair, via call, text. One of our student doctor groups, the student is actually planning now to go do their precepting with that doc and hopefully work for that doc afterwards. So some good relationships being formed there, right? So those are the 2 big programs we have for the students. lower key student level, what we do is we actually have a private Facebook group with all the students from across the country in the IFCO. And what that allows them to do, first off, is network and meet other students from other schools. Because I know when, like, you went to Sherman, maybe it wasn't this way, but when I went to Palmer, there was the big group of students at Palmer, and then like the philosophy-based students, which was a much smaller number. And I was always at seminars trying to find other philosophy-based students.
Right.
So this puts them all together in Facebook in a group, right? And then we have a different doc come in and speak, who's, you know, a good solid, you know, some people have been through like Jack Borla and Liam Schubel and Lacey Book, right? To speak to the students the first Thursday of every month. We just had Dr. Mo on. Basically, they get one-on-one with that doc, either on a Facebook Live or on a Zoom for an entire hour, ask any questions they want, right? To really build their base and go from there. So those are our big three things happening.
I love
with
it.
The student.
I love
it's
it.
Just,
I love it. And here's the thing. That's what we need to do more of in chiropractic, period. You know, we have to do more things like that if we are going to have the philosophically focused adjustment, subluxation focused docs thrive, you know. You know, and it starts with the students. We have to know the chiropractic students of the future. So I'm, you know, by the way, that student group, what's the student group?
Yeah, it's just called IFCO Student Club. So if you're a student and you're listening and whatever reason you didn't get added, just search us on Facebook, IFCO Student Club, and you'll find us and you'll join us. Or if you're a doc and you want to connect into students, you know, get in contact with myself or somebody else with the IFCO, and we can get you on Zoom with the students. We can get you hooked up with our mentor program. We're always looking for more docs to help out and help with the students. So
excellent. Well, you know, I'm really grateful you spend your time to be on the podcast right now, and also again for serving in your community, for serving an international organization to help the students, for pitching in at Mile High and being there, for being things like the Berkshires event, I got to be concerned about the hallway talks with Jack Borla, but we'll put that aside. But you know, being you
know, everybody has one flaw, right, Danny? You know,
exactly. But so and with all of that, and we need more people. We need more Lauries. And there's only one Laurie, but more people that are contributing that way. And I really want to acknowledge you on behalf of Mile High, the IFCO, and so on. And for helping, because this is, you know, I didn't do that for a lot of years, and then I, you know, woke up to the trouble that our profession was in. So, and I hope more people hear this and know that, you know, you said time, talent, or treasure. You know, there's some way that you can put some energy into all of that. So, what's some way that any last things you'd like to share with people about chiropractic before we wrap up?
You know, one thing that I think keeps me going, that I think about all the time is BJ Palmer's written words about just think of the power that rests in your hands, provided you make it work, right? And I just think sometimes in chiropractic, it's easy to get a little bit too relaxed and too comfortable, and we're making good money in our offices and we're enjoying our ski vacations or whatever it is we do. But if we can remember the power we have and stay on purpose and stay on track with each other, and then all just do like one more thing per year for chiropractic, it'd be amazing how far we went. Right. And that's what keeps me going. It's always like, let's just do one more little thing and then it's done. Right. But what keeps me going is I hear that audio of BJ on YouTube going, just think the power that rests in your hands, provided you make it work.
Right.
Well, you have to make it.
I really want to just again, thank you for your contributions. I know there's a lot of unsung heroes aren't necessarily acknowledged, and I want to most certainly acknowledge you for your help for chiropractic overall. And you know, we look forward to seeing you at Mile High, at Sherman Lyceum, anywhere else that we get to see you. Hopefully you make it out to Colorado for some other reason, because we'd love to hang with you then. And again, thank you so much. Let's let people know again how can they become a member of the IFCO?
Yeah, if you go to ifcochiro.org, you can sign up. There's a become a member tab at the top. You just sign up, fill out your stuff there. Students really have the best rate, but honestly, for anyone, it's well worth the money that you put in.
Right.
So ifcochiro.org.
And it probably is the best deal as a student to be a member of the IFCO that exists as a chiropractic student, other than being at Mile High, because that would be $50 for 1 year. But then you get the hallway talks, though.
Yeah, the hallway talks are kind of priceless, though. I mean, depending who you get with, though. I mean, some of them you're looking for an out, like Jack Borla, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to find a way to get out of it, but everyone else, it's pretty good.
There you go. There you go. And so excellent. And let's encourage people, please do that. And we look forward to seeing, keep changing spines, lives, and minds with chiropractic. We know there's no shortage of spines distorted. So there's most certainly people that need help, and we need more chiropractors to help them. So, and more chiropractors like Dr. Laurie. And I can't wait to tell Dan Lyons about this story. I'm gonna message him right afterwards and tell him he's got to listen to the podcast. So yeah, thank you again so much for all your contributions, and we look forward to seeing you at Mile High and everyone else. September 2023, riseup to milehigh.com.